Hello and welcome to Rage Quit. My name is Jay and today we're going to be looking at Warcaster, which is the new Kickstarter coming soon game from Privateer Press. And yeah, there's a couple of interesting things here. I've just watched Glassharstead video talking about why he's excited for it and how he thinks, well, he's not saying it's going to Kill Team, because I think obviously everybody realizes Kill Team is a Games Workshop game, but he's excited for it, and he's sort of seeing it at least as a competitive, but a competitor. Whereas for me, it's actually more interesting the fact that Privateer Press themselves are doing this game, and the similarities in a sense to Warmahordes I think is very critical for their positioning. But let's have a look at the Kickstarter and we'll talk about that in a moment. If at the end of this video you like the video, press like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. It really does help. Well, smooth, easy transition there, Jay. I didn't have to look for the button or stall. Yeah, so, I mean, you can go on. This is not currently live as a Kickstarter, right? That's not currently live. That's fine. However, there's this little like infographic that really has me, I say excited, it's the opposite of excited. For me personally, flattered because of the size of this board, but it's a two-player game, right? That's fairly standard. Ages 14 plus, which I find interesting because you don't normally even see that on games, like nobody even really bothers. Now, it's 60 to 90 minutes. Interestingly, Glassharstead was talking about how that is actually the length of like a Kill Team game. Personally, I think they bloated up Kill Team so much that if that sort of makes sense. 35mm is essentially just 32mm heroic, which is GW standard size, depending on how you look at it. 20 to 30 models. Now, that 20 to 30 models actually puts me in more mind of a game, say, like Star Wars Legion. Really, you don't, in Star Wars Legion, which is a 6x3 on the full kind of game, you don't often run 30 plus models. Generally you're like maybe teetering on that, so it's sort of it sort of feels a little bit like Star Wars Legion, except with smaller unit sizes and perhaps a smaller table, if that makes sense. But the key thing to note here is Warmahordes, which I know Privateer Presses have quite a few issues relatively recently. I know the people from Atomic Mass Games, they were employed there and then they've left, etc. So there's been sort of a gulf in Privateer Press, and then they had delays, etc. I don't really know the full story, and I'm not, in one sense, I'm not too interested. I hope everybody's work and everything's fine, but I'm more interested just in the games rather than the politics and stuff like that goes around it. But you know, as I think most people generally are. But for me, to my knowledge, War Machine and Hordes, isn't that played on a 4x4 table? Doesn't that have these like mechs? Doesn't that take the same kind of time? Isn't that a sci-fi-esque steampunk game? It just feels like a direct replacement but a complete brand change. Now I know they're probably going to say, yeah, we're going to support it, etc. But yeah, I find it a little bit strange that they're going to at least temporarily coexist. So I mean, for those of you who don't know too much about this game, that's the key information there, isn't it? We want to know how long it takes, we want to know how many miniatures, we want to know the size of the board. 4x4 for me in this day and age is the middle size, right? 3x3, 4x4, they're your like middle games. So your Manticore like War, sort of like the Marvel skirmish game is Marvel Crisis Protocol is teetering on that, but the amount of miniatures makes it more of a skirmish game. But 3x3 is quite big. Even Legion to some extent, in terms of model count, is almost there, except the board's a bit bigger. So there's these sort of games that are like mid to high range or mid to low range. It's sort of like in the middle of they're not like pure skirmish games and they're not pure large massive table games. They're these middle ground, and this is it's firmly into that mold, which is fine. Except, I mean, is it going to be the one kind of thing? The one. Privateer Press, good reputation when it comes to rules, etc. and competitiveness, although some people always moan about that. And I'm sure if you played one of the recent editions, you'd be like, you could always find flaws in it. But yeah, in itself, it's a good game to exist positionally wise, but I don't think Privateer Press could really have this game and War Machine and Hordes both competing for the same table space and the same model counts and stuff like that. Like, I'd be very hard pushed to find somebody who's going to play both. And if you're going to play one of them, sure, you'd want to consolidate your efforts and have a player base for the one. So yeah, that's interesting. So the Warcaster is you. You're somewhere off dictating orders. Don't get me wrong, I really like them. I prefer this game over War Machine and Hordes, right? Because the jacks and everything in War Machine and Hordes, sure, fine. But aesthetically, yeah, this is more my kind of taste, for sure. The generic sci-fi enforcers, fine. They sort of remind me of Mantic, if I'm honest. Can't remember the name of that faction. And then the other one, are sort of like a cross between what appears to be like Space Marines and Tau, is the best way I can describe it. And the unit size apparently in this, for example, here, it's apparently 3 and then a hero and then a solo guy and a big sort of like armoured, I'm just going to call them mechs, although they're actually called warjacks, and apparently they're reasonably customizable. But it's this positioning that I just don't understand necessarily. Yeah, the game looks fine. I really like the terrain as well. I really like the models. Everything looks fine. It's coming to Kickstarter, which again is not really a problem or anything like that. But just the existence of two games that are essentially look like they're going to be occupying the same like retail space and competitive space and mindset space. Yes, the games will play differently. It's alternating actions. It's whatever. The games are going to play differently. That's whenever I ever try and compare two games, but somebody in the comments will be like, actually, Jay, they play completely differently, and you're a fool. And you know, I'm sure that actually is true on both counts. But yeah, like I don't want to call it the same. I don't want to say these are the same game. The rules are going to be different. But you're the same size board, same model count from the same company with warjacks. Like, I think that's the end of... I think ultimately that is probably the end of War Machine and Hordes. Maybe? If this does well, like, you just jump onto this. Maybe they just think it's time for a refresh. Privateer Press as a whole, they did Riot Quest, which, if I'm honest, I don't... It seemed like a decent game, but the marketing from it, from the initial standpoint, wasn't particularly well received, and I'm not sure how much the game's gonna like kick on. But that's also entering like a competitive space with other skirmish games at the moment, like Kill Team and you know the Marvel Crisis Protocol game. Then we're gonna get Super Fancy Brawl, and we've got Sky Tier, etc. So that's quite competitive, and I guess in one sense they are almost unique in this 4x4 standard. We're just going to make these 4x4 playable games and like it or lump it kind of thing. We're not going any bigger than that. We're going 4x4. And I do think once skirmish sort of blossoms and dies out, I know Tabletop Minions did a video and I've talked about it before how there's like a skirmish, I don't call it a renaissance, but it's quite a big push right now. Once maybe that sort of slows down and stops a little bit, maybe we'll look at these more medium-sized games. But for sure, I'm struggling to see a future for War Machine and Hordes if Warcaster becomes the main game from Privateer Press. As of entering the market, as I said, when I think of these mid-range games, I think Mantic probably has one. Not that I can actually remember it. It's not Dreadball. Can't remember the name of the sci-fi game. Warpath? I'm not sure if it's still around. I don't know. I'm not really following it or anything like that. And then, yeah, you could step up and go to Star Wars Legion, you could step down and go to Kill Team. In the middle, you've got, I said, maybe All Out War. I'm not sure there's loads of games that like 4x4, but it's teetering on the full-size games, but it's also teetering on the skirmish games. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm a little bit confused, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't really know what's happening. I think that probably is the end of War Machine and Hordes. I can't see one company that's now not even the third, well, it might not even be the third biggest company anymore. It used to be, maybe used to be second. I know Glasshouse Death mentioned that, but it's GW and FFG now. And then, I mean, there's many contenders for that third slot, and I'm not sure it's Privateer Press. If I'm honest, I'm not sure it is. But yeah, even if they were number 3, it's entering a reasonably competitive market, and you wouldn't want two games that are competing for the same space. So I'm not sure what they're doing. I'm only talking about this in, say, like a marketing and a strategy point. The only logical answer to me is that they're killing War Machine and Hordes, but in all but concept. They're just saying, right, that's not profitable enough necessarily. We're going to move to Warcaster and we're going to hit it big. And yeah, I mean, that's exciting. Will I play it? Don't know. I don't think so. Too much time, too big of a space, and I don't think that's for me. Let me know if it's for you. I'm very intrigued. Do you think I'm right? I'm wrong? Like, were you maybe a Warmahordes player? And if you are a Warmahordes player, like, how do you feel about this? Like, that would be a key question to me. And yeah, I really don't know how you'd feel. And if you're not, do you like the aesthetic? Do you maybe think you'll pick it up? Yeah, that's it. Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.